dreary, cold night, which of course shows your dedication to make sure that you are involved in this process. We're here tonight. This is our second meeting dealing with our public forums for our school boundaries. Benita Coleman-Potter, I'm the Deputy Superintendent for our school system, and I'm joined tonight with a couple of my colleagues who will help us go through this conversation. Mr. Michael Dodson is our Director of Transportation. We're also here tonight with Mr. John Dale Jones-Brown, who is our Director of Pupil Accounting and School Boundaries, and also our Chief Academic Officer is here, Dr. Arbogast, as well as our board member. People move when I tell them not to. Board Member Higgins. Oh, there she is. Also our school board member Higgins. And we certainly like to thank Mr. McNeil for hosting the meeting, as he so often does with such hospitality. So we're here tonight to actually have a very informal conversation about our school boundaries and our redistricting. We actually try to do this work on a very frequent basis so that we can make sure that our schools are being used at their capacity. But also we can make sure that if children are in overcrowded situations, that we're trying to address those as quickly as we can. And so tonight we have for you just a brief, okay, John Dale, I tried. We have a brief schematic that actually speaks to where we are in terms of the schedule for this particular piece of work. And there are a couple of disclaimers that I'd like just to mention up front. Number one is that in this particular round of boundary hearings, you will not hear us mention high schools. And although we know that work needs to be done at the high school level to even out and to really deal with some enrollment balances, we actually think that we're going to take care of that through what we call secondary school reform. And so you'll hear more about that work in terms of clusters that we're developing and how we actually plan to make sure that the high schools become very competitive in terms of enrollment and filling their seats. But this particular piece of boundary work is really around elementary and middle schools. And there are a couple of drivers that we really want to make sure that we take care of in terms of this particular work. And the first one is that as we go through this process, we want to make sure that we give the community an opportunity to be heard. So while we're here tonight having a conversation with you, and we're going to turn the mic off in a few minutes and just really talk to you about what do you see in terms of issues, at the same time as we begin to go through the process of formalizing an official recommendation for Dr. Height to make to the school board, we actually are required by board policy to come back to you and to make sure that we hold public hearings. So I don't want anyone to confuse what happens tonight in terms of just the informal forum with the actual public hearing, where we are required to make sure that we provide notice to your house by mail to make sure that everyone is aware. But in addition to that, we want you to know that our Board of Education is actually going to take this matter up just in terms of a first blush on October 27th, and then they'll also have more of an in-depth study at their November meeting when they have it as a first reader. The goal right now is to have a board recommendation to them by the December meeting so that hopefully we can have a vote by January and we can begin to make the transition for next year. So in terms of the three drivers that I mentioned earlier, no, we skipped one. We skipped one. That sheet. Oh, no, you're right. So in terms of the three drivers, and we'll go more through this more in depth, but I think it's important that you know as parents and community members that one of the primary drivers of this work is really to make sure that we correct some of the imbalances that we have. The second is really to make sure that we deal with our tag issue. And so if you look at how we actually service tag now, you'll see that we're still following a DSEG model. And our kids from Laurel are going all the way down to Glenarden Woods or to Walker Mill for services, whereas we really would like to move a tag center closer and above 450 for those children so they won't have to travel such a far distance. And then the third one, of course, is the issue around middle schools, and to make sure that we really try and deal with the issue around 7th and 8th grade middle schools, and that we add 6th grades to those schools so that children can not only decrease their transitions, but at the same time increase the value of the middle school experience. So we're going to go through some additional slides, and Mr. Jones-Brown is actually going to go through those with us, and then we'll turn the mics off so that we can hear from you as well. So thank you for being here.
Good evening, everyone. The thing that we really want you to come away from this meeting with is the fact that we do have a process available for you to provide input to possible boundary improvements. This process is going to get started, again, this evening. It actually got started on Monday. It's going to continue through the 27th and through the first reader, as well as, again, beyond that, there'll be an opportunity for you to converse directly with the board in terms of providing boundary or feedback on specific proposals. But before we even get to that point, part of what we're looking from you is suggestions in regards to how our boundaries can be improved. Again, as the Deputy Superintendent indicated, boundaries have evolved from, again, desegregation, and they've been around, and as we've added schools, there's been incremental changes, and we've wound up with some boundaries that are, let's say, difficult to explain at best. Again, an example of that would be the attendance area for Kingsford Elementary, which is shown as an example up there. And that is not a very neighborhood-friendly boundary. It's been one of the areas that's been raised to us as an opportunity for improving our boundary process. There have been some other schools that have been mentioned as opportunities, where opportunities exist for improvement. Again, we've heard from the community in regards to Yorktown. We've heard from the communities around Baden Elementary and a few others regarding concerns about low enrollment, the resources that are available, and imbalances between our facilities. Again, rather than come to you at this point in time with a specific plan in terms of this is what we're going to do about that, what we want to do first is listen and receive from you suggestions in terms of how that might be approved. In addition to whole school areas, there's also a number of instances that we have where anomalies have been encountered in our boundary assignments. Again, an example of that is shown in the bottom part of the slide. That particular one concerns Hydesville Elementary, and I believe it's Cora Rice, where the entire, those 5 houses or so are surrounded by kids going to a different school. Now, again, this is something that evolved over time, and again, may have been a mistake in coding that has not been identified and corrected, but it persists, and it doesn't make sense. There's no good reason why we should ask the kids living in those particular houses across the street go to a different school than the next door neighbors. And so those are the kinds of improvements that we think can be addressed quite easily as part of this process. And if you are aware of instances like that where the assignment doesn't seem to make sense, we'd like to address those. Again, those impact relatively few students, but even if there are more students, we'd like to at least have it identified as being a problem for future study. As the deputy mentioned, in some instances, there will be problems that we cannot resolve immediately. When we talk about our tag boundaries, for example, we don't necessarily have room to reestablish in more geographically dispersed manner the tag programs that we would like at this point in time. We do recognize that as a problem. So what we may be pointing to is a multi-year process in terms of resolving that. Again, there's a new elementary school that's on the books in the Hyattsville area, and that potentially offers the potential in terms of relieving some of the overcrowding and giving us an opportunity for identifying a new elementary tag in that area. In terms of our middle schools, some of our middle schools actually have seats that are available but don't currently serve the 6th grade. The school district had previously identified that it was desirable to have our 6th grade students in the same building as the 7th and 8th grade students for continuity purposes and for stability, rather than having multiple successive transitions. It also would be helpful in terms of dispersing the population to where there are seats available. And so that's another set of improvements or opportunities that we'll be looking for. In terms of our specialty programs, again, those are something that also have a long history behind us in terms of how they've evolved over time. And their geographic locations, as well as the boundaries, offer, I think, opportunities for possible improvements. We may not be financially, as a district, in a position where we can expand or create many new opportunities, but we can certainly re-examine those boundaries and see if we can optimize it and lessen the burden on our transportation system. And Again, those programs that have been mentioned in particular have been, again, our Montessori program, French immersion, talented and gifted. There's also, again, a couple of programs, one newly established in regards to performing arts at Benjamin Falloy. As I indicated, this is not a meeting about giving you numbers and telling you how it's overcrowded and we're going to fix this and that. Right now, we're still soliciting, if you will, from you ideas and suggestions. And what we wanted to do is make sure that this meeting and the meeting that's going to be held tomorrow evening give you an opportunity to provide that input. In addition to this meeting, on your handout, they also indicate an email address where you can offer suggestions if you come up with ideas later on or want to offer some observations. Again, data will be available on our website, and as any specific proposals are developed, you will hear about it, and there will be formal public hearings in addition to board meetings where they're discussed in detail, and mail notices to homes and robocalls and communication through the schools to make sure that you have an opportunity to provide your input to the board prior to a decision being made. Again, as I indicated, the primary purpose of this meeting is to hear from you. And what we're going to do is we had originally asked that those individuals that wanted to speak to sign up. What we anticipated is if there were a large number, that we would sort of do a round robin focusing on various schools so that we weren't dominated by any one school. But I think the numbers are sufficient that we can go ahead and go through those speakers and then essentially have an open mic where those that initially did not sign up may still want to speak. You will be given that opportunity.
PTA President Kyle Bigelow Thomas. It seems like we've been here, was it 2 years ago? Or was it last year? However, I understand and I feel the passion in the speaker before me about her school. I'm here to represent our parents of Rockledge that have the same passion. We like it the way it is. I know that's not an answer to a solution. However, I mentioned this solution last year or 2 years ago. The people that live in Fairwood, their children go to Glendale Elementary. They live in, quote, Bowie. The school board was given money by the person who built their development, and they don't have an elementary school. So they're sending their children to Glendale Elementary. Instead of making that left to go out of Fairwood to go to Glendale Elementary School, they can make a right. When they make that right, they can go down to Yorktown Elementary. Instead of having to phase in, you have a whole community of people. So that's going to save in your transportation, because you know this whole unit is going to go down the street to Yorktown Elementary. Okay? We need to put a piece in here for the children. You have your special needs children that want to stay with Miss Rose, that wants to stay with Mr. Schmel, because that's what they know. In order to make them succeed, they need to stay with the people that surround them that they feel that they can work with. It's going to take a special needs child a year to 2 years to get familiar with a new set of people. Okay? And I don't want to put the feelings in there, because I'm quite sure you can hear it in my voice. And it doesn't affect my children per se, because I have a 5th grader. But each year, when Rockledge membership vote me in for the past 6 years, I vowed that I was going to speak on their behalf. And they want to stay at Rockledge. We have our Saddlebrook West. We have our Kimberwick. We have our Patuxent Riding, thank you. We have our Patuxent Riding. These parents want to stay. When we had the boundary change that did not happen, we lost people who moved, who said, you know, if this is down the pike, it's going to go down the pike, and my younger children are not going to be able to finish out at Rockledge. They moved. And when they moved, they did not stay in Prince George's County. So you're losing a lot of revenue of people who would stay in Prince George's County to Howard County, to Anne Arundel County. So, with that said, Rockledge, we run like a well-oiled machine. We're going through a transition right now with a new principal and a new AP as well. Practically all of our administration retired. So, don't have another change to our children by sending them to another school. As for the test scores, I'm going to put it out there. The test scores for African American men are lower at Yorktown than they are at Rockledge. That is one of the biggest things that flooded my email this today to talk about. They want their children to be educated on the same level that they have at Rockledge. And I would invite you to come to Rockledge and see how we run the well-oiled machine that we have. Also about the media specialist. Everybody's been hit with the media specialist. My daughter, 5th grade, has media every 3 weeks. That's unacceptable to me. You need to teach the children to research a research paper. Where do you learn that? In elementary school. Because by the time you're in middle school, because I now have a middle schooler, by the time you're in middle school, you should know how to go and look up something. But you're not getting that piece because you don't have a media specialist. Now that problem right there is a concern for me. So when our children graduate or go to other high school or go to college, they're going to be behind the 8 ball because, one, they didn't have a media specialist. They didn't have, they weren't taught to research. Why? Because they don't go to the library but once every 3 weeks. Okay? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm actually here and had no intention on speaking, but representing 2 schools, Yorktown and Hoyer. And we are new to Yorktown, not new to Hoyer. But before our children went to, actually my daughter started going to Yorktown, I knew many of the residents. I live in Saddlebrook. And there is a very active PTA, has been stated, and obviously you've heard a lot of passion about parents in their particular schools. I'm hoping that whatever redistricting, boundering, the lines that are being considered, that if you're talking about more children coming in, my concern are the funds actually trickling down to the students. It was alarming to me when I saw, after being identified as TAG, we're waiting to find out in speaking in detail to the TAG office that they're still, just in terms of budget issues. And I'm like, how do you have your best performing, and we had this issue, transportation, I'll get on that in a second, because it was appalling to me that was even being considered last year. So I'm hoping that we're considering more transportation optimization, all of that. But back to this, that your students, these students who are in this have been identified as such in terms of monies going towards the program. And I know every program we're looking at, whether it, as the woman stated earlier, part-time, to have the media specialist only there a certain amount of weeks, the art teacher, all of that is important. So my concern is just the money actually trickling down to our schools where these services, everything does not have to be part-time. And if you're talking about bringing more kids into, say, Yorktown, then that's more services. That's more staff that needs to be there on a full-time basis, whether it is people wearing different hats, but having that person, those particular, that faculty there on a full-time basis is important, particularly for the students, I would say. And I do want to know that I agree whether it is considering Yorktown becoming a TAG school. And I do believe beyond just tests, it's important to know what's going on in the school. I plan to go tomorrow to help volunteer because I hear they need reading people to come in and assist the children with that. So it's more so getting in the schools and being involved as well to see what's really going on for your child. Every school is not for every child, as we know. Hoyer, I really briefly, I'm hoping to see Hoyer definitely expanded. As my child is now in lower elementary, I'm hoping that he will then have, we love our Montessori school. And we're hoping that he can continue to transition. And I think it's totally unfair that you have 2 Montessori schools and Hoyer a third. That's a whole other issue because many people don't know that our school is Montessori. It is a Montessori school. The sign outside still says, it doesn't, I forget what it says. I don't know if it says childhood development. But so that's why the confusion. Branding. We want to see as simple as our sign outside to say the name of our school so people know. When I spoke at the council meeting, many people didn't even know there was a 3rd Montessori school in Prince George's County, and it is, and we're thriving well, and we have an active PTA as well. So we'd love to see that continue with Montessori, as it's been stated already. It's important to have older children transition in with younger children, and we don't teach just to that particular grade, which is why I love Montessori. So we hope that that is considered, whether it is using another facility, but bringing that into play. Our parents, that's a big issue. Lastly, transportation. I don't know if we talked about, and my husband attended this meeting last year, and I came later, what's been done in terms of transportation optimization. Have we looked at, just better routes? Because I know it took my son an hour and a half. Councilman Turner didn't realize. I said, my son wasn't getting home. Now, it's been better this year, but I hope that if it's being revisited with the next budget, as we come around again, because I was told that it's a yearly thing. It's preposterous to me to think that transportation, it's not a matter of the specialty schools, people having more money, just people were fortunate to get in the lottery for these schools. So it runs the gamut in terms of income levels. So to take away transportation would just be devastating. So I'm hoping that transportation optimization has been explored in terms of making it more efficient, the bus routes as well. I see that they have a smaller bus, and that was fine for us, for my son, and the route has been shortened so that he gets home early, but I hope that that's explored also for the coming school year as well.
Good evening. My name is Jocelyn Ekpo, and I have a 6th grader at Heather Hills, and she's in the TAG program. I first wanted to just commend PG Board of Education and Dr. Height staff for putting on a fantastic back-to-school fair. I visited Montgomery County School Fair a couple years back, and I sent a couple of emails to Dr. Arbogast, Dr. Height, and I'm so glad that you all put on a fantastic back-to-school fair. It was really excellent. The information that was provided was excellent, and I'm really looking forward to years to come. Just wanted to say that. I'm not speaking on behalf of Heather Hills, but I'm just speaking on behalf of myself as a concerned parent and probably a couple of other parents at Heather Hills. Our kids are now in the position where they're getting ready to go to middle school. And the question we're asking each other, okay, Jocelyn, where are you going to send Akaiti to middle school? She's been in TAG since 2nd grade, and we want to keep the momentum going. And I guess I should have known this, and looking at the data here, I did not realize that Walker Mill and Kenmore are so under-enrolled. And so I guess I have a question about that. What is the reason for that under-enrollment? Is it truly due to population shifts in the areas, or are you all aware of the numbers of how many parents refuse placement, or I should say it another way, maybe choose not to accept the TAG placement in middle school for other concerns like transportation, concerns about the MSA scores, and wondering if that momentum is going to be carried on through middle school? I would even say that about even all of our specialty schools. Do you all have any data on how many parents say thank you but no thank you, we're just going to go to our neighborhood school? So that is really my big concern as I have a daughter who's getting ready to go to middle school, really wondering, of course, another issue with the transportation, all the middle schools in Bowie, they're all late start, late in schools, and if there is, that's a concern, especially with transition. If you're going to start putting 6th grade classes into middle school, just hoping there'll be some time allowed to help the kids and everybody transition to those late start schools.
Thank you so much for holding this session. I really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Sarah Trito, and I'm the Vice President of the PTA at University Park Elementary School. Trito, T-R-E-A-D-O.
Okay,
sorry. I just had a brief comment. I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the session, but I noticed on the PowerPoint the comments about over-enrolled North County elementary schools and the possibility of switching the kids to middle schools. I would just say that certainly at our school, and I would imagine a number of others, we really feel like having sixth grade in K through 6 is working. I mean, I know we're over enrolled, but having the sixth graders there is wonderful. It's a great opportunity for them to interact with the younger kids. We're very happy having sixth grade in K through 6 at University Park, and we would really, there would be a lot of concerns about shifting the sixth graders. I can't speak for other schools, but I can tell you that's kind of where we would feel about it. So thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Erica Gonzalez. I am a Rockledge parent and vice president of the Rockledge Elementary School PTA. So glad to hear that there's a transportation committee. One of the emails that will probably be going out this week to our community is to make sure that we're getting all of our information on challenges that we're having. This is probably one of the worst school years we've had with transportation issues. My children personally had the pleasure of sitting for 45 minutes to an hour at school in the hallway for 5 weeks. During the beginning of the school year because they were on a double bus ride. So that's been solved, but then going to school, we have the pleasure of my smallest child, because she's so small, gets to sit on someone's lap, and the oldest one is taller, so she gets to stand. So glad that we're having those, but we're going to get all of our parents to send those in and get them over to the bus, yes, to Transportation Services, so they can see what the major challenges are. We have everything from a bus picks up in my neighborhood, goes all the way back like it's going to Rockledge to pick up one child because it's a small community, then comes all the way back past my neighborhood to pick up another neighborhood. So a little bit off in how we're running the buses this year. So glad to hear we're having that. One of the biggest things, I was looking at my notes from the last 2 years of all of the, and you do a great job of updating the website. I was an advocate of following it for the last couple of years with the rezoning. But one of the things when I was looking at all of my notes and just wondering, is there a committee that takes a look at comments we heard earlier, the MSA scores or the challenges some schools have versus some other schools, so that's why I want my school, and I bought my house only to go to this school. Why can't we in PG County buy our houses because we want to go to PG County school? Regardless of it's Heather Hills or if it's Rockledge, I just bought my house and I want to be in PG County. I know when I moved to PG County, I looked at the same thing. I had no children, and I said, but I'm going to buy a house in this neighborhood because I want to go to Rockledge. And I said, what a shame. I grew up in Henrico County, Virginia, and went to all of Dr. Height's schools before he was Dr. Height, and it was great. I didn't even know about paying for a school system. Why would I pay to go to a private school? So when I moved here, all of my friends were saying, no, you pay for private school. I'm like, why would I do that? I pay taxes. And we have PTAs. That's why you join a PTA. That's why you get involved. And it just hurts me every year to keep hearing this. What are we doing to change the perception of I'm moving out of PG County? And I've been with Kyle talking parents out of, don't move, just wait and see. Well, nope, I'm not even dealing with this anymore. I'm tired of fighting to have my kids in a good school. We have lost so many good parents just because they don't want to fight anymore to have a good education. We should be able to say PG County is the place to come to get a great education. Thank you.
Good evening. I didn't plan on this speaking, but I am a parent whose son attends Yorktown Elementary. And currently in his class, he has 30 kids, first grade. Last year, they had about 16 in 2 kindergarten classes, and they put both classes in one. After hearing about different parents visiting the classroom because it is not the ideal setting, I went in myself as an administrator, and I tried as hard as I could to put on a parent. But as I sat there in frustration, as an adult, it was hard for me. As a 6-year-old, I can't imagine sitting there in that setting for 6 hours. It was ridiculous. When we bought our home 6 years ago, we bought it to attend Heather Hills. And then that summer, the boundaries were changed. So we went to Yorktown, and my daughter's here. She went there also. She was slated as a tag student when we were in Montgomery County. And then I wanted her to learn the neighborhood kids, whatever, but then she ended up going to Heather Hills, and now she's at Cameron. I hope that my son has the same track, but I'm concerned about him missing the basics because of what is going on at the first grade level. I've worked with him as a teacher, administrator, whatever, over the summer because I'm not sure he's going to get what he needs to to place into a tag program to pull him out of the situation that he's in now. If I had the option to have him transferred to, I don't care, any school besides the one he's in right now because of the situation that's going on in there, I will drive out of my way to make sure he gets what he needs. I wouldn't care if it was an outstanding teacher with 50 kids, and then I knew he was getting what he was supposed to get, but that's not what's happening at all. And I just want you all to hear my voice because I am more than frustrated about this situation, and I don't understand the process, what was done over the summer while we're looking at it now. So if anyone's able to answer that question, because to have him settled in the school and then to have him pull someplace else, it's a disruption, but what are the options for parents that are in this situation? There's one teacher for the whole school. So if another person moves into the neighborhood, they're going to have 32 kids in that class. And needless to say, I can tell the teacher's frustrated just from the way that the interactions that were going on in the classroom. And as a parent was sitting there, I felt like there was no filter on what was coming out of her mouth. The way she was directing kids, the lack of encouragement, and I ended up walking out of class. And I have a conference on Wednesday.
Parent of specialty program students, and I'm concerned about the strength of those programs should their locations be adjusted, and what types of changes. For example, at John Hanson, I know there are things that my daughter that just finished and the one that's there, they get because of the numbers of the two programs together, like the extra arts. How would that change those programs? Also, for the high school level, I don't see any high school information up here, and I know there is a concern about the IB programs, and how is that going to be affected?
I know from experience that when the child is learning there, when the teacher has a lot of contact, as opposed to little contact with a lot of kids in the classroom, that will impact that child's learning as they move up to the 6th grade, middle, and high school. And that's my comment, that the 30 kids in one classroom is too much. That's too much. It needs to be brought down to about half of that in an ideal situation.
Elementary school. We have a very number of changes going right now. And there's the budget cuts we saw for the past grade this year. And you'll see the full-time staff and part-time staff. I prepare for this budget cut as soon as possible for what I'm most concerned about is an unequal distribution of children within the whole school neighborhood. All children will be going to the high school, and they will all have the same amenities and access to the same education in each school. There are schools with temporaries, which I know are increasing the cost budget, and there's a lot of sort of unnecessary busing on efficient busing. If you look at the old town boundary line as it stands, it's a very, very long, narrow, disjuncted piece, which I don't think reflects the way the school was built originally, the common core originally. We're in a great neighborhood, in a homogeneous
lottery, we did get in, and we got our daughter in as well. But our concern is that we had a sixth grader graduate from Hoyer last year, and it was really hard to get him into Goddard, and there is no other option for us in this area. And to have our students have to go through the lottery process again for a natural matriculation into the other public Montessori school just doesn't seem fair. And I understand that you did mention that we would be looking for maybe other buildings for us to move to, and that could take a few years. And we're hoping it'll be sooner, but if not, what do we do with our 4th, 6th graders that we have this year that need to matriculate, and whose families want them to continue in the Montessori program? So I'd just like to speak on behalf of our school and say that we really would like the board to look at other facilities that could house Jubilee Hoyer Montessori. There is a current waiting list for our kindergarten through lower L, and we have a lot of families that I'm still in contact with in the private Montessori education system who would be open to having their child go to a public Montessori school if the room is there.
Thank you.
It's elementary, but I'm just wondering what sort of a process you use for determining there are all these houses being built, apartments being built, and our schools are getting more overcrowded. The new elementary school is going to be much further to the west, where there is other new development happening. What sort of a timeline do you expect to have boundary discussions for that new school, and where are things going to be shifting? How will this affect the other schools that are in our area?
My name is Edith Beecham. I didn't come with a prepared statement, but I want to tell you a bit about the story of my children because I think it may open some eyes in terms of how we think about boundaries for schools and neighborhoods and what that does to children that may have special needs. My 2 children were my adopted children. I was a foster mom in another state, adopted them. They're special needs children, but they're also twice exceptional. So through my transition, which started really in 2005, my daughter wound up in 3 elementary schools, and she's now in the TAG program at Kenmore and thriving, and chose to stay at Kenmore even though it was her 4th school in 4 years. She knew no one, and that's been a challenge for her. But she chose to stay there because she could continue to take geometry and second-year Spanish, which was not offered at our boundary school. But so she chose that, and we're doing okay. I would not put another child through what my daughter's been through, and my son was split apart from his sister. That was not my choice either. I've lived in one house, in one boundary, but we're across the street in Greenbelt, and there are 10 elementary schools for 654 homes in my development. I think that's absurd. And it's got to be challenging for you all. Now, I'm going to back up because in 2005, both my children were at Greenbelt Elementary School, and they were thriving there too. But I moved. I thought I was in the boundary, and it turned out I wasn't. And that's when our saga began, and we wound up with all these different elementary schools. We've never moved. So something is wrong in the way we think about boundaries and so on. But in 2005, I originated a student directory for Greenbelt Elementary School at the time. I'm thankful that that PTA has kept that up as a project to coalesce parents. And what I learned was that the student body was turning over 50 to 60% every year. And August was the critical time because there's so many apartment complexes around. Now, I'm not sure if the full demographics of Prince George's County of how many neighborhoods have lots of apartment complexes. But parents wind up moving. They lose their lease. They can't afford their rent. There's a problem with neighbors. There's one thing or another. Their job changes. They get divorced. They wound up with 2 households. What I learned from the Student Directory Project is the student demographics that are kept by the school system only allow one address. Many of our children are living in 2 households, and we do not know where they're really living because they'll pick one parent as the boundary. Then I discovered that we had a bus problem at the time, this was 2005, where there were or 30 extra kids boundaried on the bus that my children were taking, and it was unsafe, and the bus driver was stopping me, and I'm a vocal parent, so the bus driver stopped and said, hey, would you help me out, because I've got 95 kids I'm picking up on a bus that's not allowed to have that many kids. Why is this happening? It was at the beginning of the year. August had happened. All these new kids had wound up. But there was also a daycare center in that neighborhood. None of those kids were counted. When you do your boundary demographics, when you do your projections, you don't count where kids are going to, particularly at elementary school age, where they're going to daycare. And aftercare providers, before and aftercare, is the way that people get around the boundaries in this county. That's the other thing I learned. Okay? They just say, oh, my aunt is going to be the boundary school, or my best friend, because my job is taking me this way and that way, and I can't possibly meet that bus in the morning or the afternoon, and so that's where we want my kid to be picked up and dropped off. And so half the parents were getting around the boundaries by that. So I began to say, why are we having boundaries? Boundaries are barriers, and boundaries are creating these enormous stresses for parents. If we maybe step back from this and said, we have 100,000 children, and they all have special needs of one type or another, whether it's the logistics of getting to school, who's going to watch them, what their educational needs are, who their friends are that they want to stay with for whatever reason. There's so many reasons that parents want to choose a school, and it's not necessarily because of the neighborhood I bought my house in, so, or that I'm renting in. And sometimes we can't afford to do that or to stay where we want to be. So to me, if we were to step back from this and do a survey of, in an ideal world, which are the 1 or 2 or 3 top schools you would love to have your children in because it's near your work, it's near where Aunt lives, it's where the daycare is, it's, maybe if we had more flexibility, we would have less angst and less work on trying to figure all these plans out. I mean, may not be perfect either, because there are a lot of people that will say, I want my kid in Glenarden Woods. There's 12,000 tag identified students in this county, and only, I think it's 2,000 slots. So that's another issue. We're doing this by lottery. That maybe we need to up how many neighborhood schools have tag curriculums so that both kids can stay in the same school. We don't have to split the kids apart like my kids wound up. My son was lucky enough to get in the lottery and have a wonderful education with Principal Boulding over here. He's there. But my daughter didn't get in there. It took 3 years until she got into Kenmore, and now she's where she needs to be this year until she comes here and she walks across the street to this school. So boundaries.
We'll certainly consider. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Sarwar. I live in Greenbelt. I am a father of one 12th grader at Illinois Roosevelt High School and one 9th grader at Illinois Roosevelt High School, and I am a member of PTA at Illinois Roosevelt High School, and I am a father of one KG student at Greenbelt Elementary High School, Greenbelt Elementary School, and I am a member of PTA at Greenbelt Elementary High School. And I have been living in Greenbelt City and Prince Georgia County just for educational purposes. Earlier I worked in Montgomery County. I lived in PG County just for education. Now I am working in Howard County, but I am still living in PG County just for educational purposes. And my concern is my kids are coming to Illinois Roosevelt High School, and they don't have a Arabic language as a secondary foreign language, and they have absolutely no option here. They are actually kind of forced to choose one of the available languages. I think it will be. I am sure. I myself know a lot of students here who like to enroll in the Arabic language at Illinois Roosevelt High School. There is a huge crowd here, not small number, and who would like to enroll. But I am not sure what happened earlier in the planning or what. I don't know the reason. But if there is a in the economic scenario like in the today, we should be able to bring in the Arabic language without incurring any additional cost. But there could be a transition period, like 1 year or maybe something. But I am sure that that is not, that in the long run that shouldn't incur any additional cost, because there is a huge number of students. I am not trying to represent anybody except myself and my kids, but I am just trying to share some information. If you can look into bringing in the Arabic language at elementary here in Illinois Roosevelt High School, I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Lindsay, and I'm from Greenbelt Elementary School. I also serve on their PTA board as well, too. I'd like to just kind of piggyback off of a lot of the things that I've heard here tonight, which has also been a big concern of mine as well. Number one is the recess. The children do need a longer recess period. I mean, they're going to get the curriculum one way or the other. Recess gives them that freedom of just being free-spirited, being able to interact with their own peers or other peers within their school system. I'd also like to address the issue of having a performing arts school in the Greenbelt area as well. I'm considering placing my daughter in a performing arts school, but I would have to commute to another school district in order to have her be able to participate in performing arts. Again, piggyback upon the media resources specialist. That's something that is a big concern for us. We lost our media specialist at Greenbelt Elementary. We no longer have our accelerated reading program, but I understand it is supposed to be coming back this month. My other issue concerns transportation relating to before and after care programs. I also understand that there is a possibility that you would be cutting out, or that the board is considering cutting out our before and after care school program. And I, for one, am a parent who, you know, uses before and after care. And if I was to lose before and after care at my school, that would be a detriment to me, and I just can't have that happen. But I also know of 2 children who are being bused to Glenwood Elementary for the TAG program through our before and after care program. And my concern is that those children have to be walked across the street to catch their school bus. And I don't understand why that school bus can't turn into the school lot like the other buses that come through our neighborhoods to pick up our children. And, you know, there are times when the coordinators and the other coordinators are not able to walk those children to the school, cross the street to the school bus. They have to stand there because they still have other students that they have to take care of. So, you know, that's a big concern for me. And I know that those parents have been working tirelessly each school year to try and get that bus to turn into the school so that those children can be safely disposed upon to that bus.
So Mr. Johnson actually talked to you after the meeting so we can get more specific.
Okay, great. That sounds good. But everything that I've heard here tonight, most especially Edith Beauchamp, about the boundary zones, I too agree. There's families who live on Greenbelt Road here, and they find out that they can no longer go to Greenbelt Elementary because of this zone system, and they want to keep their children there at Greenbelt Elementary. And so unfortunately, like she says, many parents have to do the things with their daycare providers in their before and after care schools and say, well, they go to before and after care here, so they can still go here. You know, parents should not have to make those choices and do those types of things just to get their kids into a good school. And that's why we're all here tonight, is about our students. And depleting our budgets for school systems and school programs is ridiculous for me. The students come first. And No Child Left Behind, what happened to that? If that is a program that was supposed to benefit all children within our school districts, then you should always consider the students first before you even touch the school budgets. It's just so hard for many parents, most especially with this economy, for us to have to continually each year supply the schools with the school supplies. You know, or well, we do it, you know, and parents have been doing it since they've been having children. But bring the money back to the schools. That's all I'm asking.
Good evening. My name is Renee Williams. I have a son in kindergarten at Kingsford Elementary School. And I have a question and a comment. My question, and if you have to answer afterwards, that's fine, is why is there being some proposal changing Kingsford's boundaries? I mean, I see it has an odd shape, and you said that it has kids coming from different communities, but I don't see why that would be a problem if the kids are fine in the school and if the school isn't currently overcrowded.
Sure. We'll actually stay afterwards and show it to you on the map, but
I've seen it.
Right. So
I know it looks weird, but
not only does it look weird, but we have children that are passing by elementary schools to go to Kingsford, and so we want to be efficient in addition to being effective. But we'll stay afterwards and talk to you about that as well.
Okay. And my comment was for any changes that are made this year, that based on what I've heard from a lot of parents and my own feelings, that you do grandfather in kids or families at their current schools so that they're not constantly changing. Like if my son's school changes this year, I don't want it to again change 4 years down the road, and then he keep having to switch schools. And also, in addition to a kindergarten, I have a 2-year-old, and I'd like that my children be able to attend the same school when he becomes of age.
Hello, my name is Angeline Whaley. I'm also for Kingsford Elementary School, and my concern was the 6th grade moving to middle school from Kingsford. I have a special education child, and it took us quite a while to get used to Kingsford. I'm thankful and I'm blessed that he's at Kingsford. I think right now my child has had multiple surgeries, between 10 to 15 surgeries, and we go to Dallas, Texas for our surgeries. So Kingsford has worked with me in dealing with him with these surgeries and dealing with him, you know, try to make it through school. And right now, as of last year, they gave him a dedicated aide, and I had to, you know, fight to get that, but the principal was dedicated enough to give me a designated aide. So my oldest son went to our neighborhood middle school, and he was devastated, you know, when we got the email that Kingsford 6th grade may be going to the neighborhood middle school, and he was like, Mommy, I don't think he's going to make it. I don't think he's going to make it. So I'm here fighting for 6th grade to stay in Kingsford Elementary School, not just for the special education kids or the special need kids, but for all the 6th grade.